So this video is going to be an update to the unboxing that I did on the Penstar eNote. I'm just going to be addressing some of the concerns people had about the stats. I'm also going to be going over the design of the device. I'm going to be going over some more of the tidbits I found out about it, some more information about the pen, and we're going to just talk about the overall package of it. And then I'm going to do another update video after that, talking about the account setup, the apps, and a couple of the other nuances of the device. Before we close it off with the review after that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. How's it going, everyone? Roger here, Rants About Tech. If you're new here, welcome. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button for me, and to the crew, salute. You guys know what to do. Let's go ahead and get these likes up. So since I did my unboxing, there was a lot of questions about the stats and the specs of this particular device that I wasn't really concerned about, and I didn't realize that they would be such a concern to other people. So we're going to address some of those issues right off the top, and then we're going to get into the device a little bit more and talk about the pen. So stay tuned. We're going to do more about the apps and the writing app and the reading app. So a lot of things I found out are very, very interesting. A lot of nice little details, a lot of like what I would like to call quality of life upgrades, you know what I'm saying? So stay tuned for that. But let's go ahead and get into these stats. So one thing I was thinking about when I was looking at the stats is the Remarkable 2. So there aren't many similarities between those two devices, the Remarkable 2 and the eNote here. But when you talk about specs, you have to think about the Remarkable 2, especially when you talk about specs that have lasted the test of time. So by comparison, we have the Remarkable 2 with 1 GB of RAM, whereas the eNote here has 2 GB of RAM. So that's double the RAM we have in this particular device than the Remarkable 2. And like I said, that's notable because the Remarkable 2 has been out for almost 5 years now. And it's been running this whole time with the same hardware. So, and then when you think about how old the hardware was before the Remarkable 2 was even announced, I think that hardware might have been a few years old, if not 4 years old or so, before the hardware was even announced. So they were taking off the shelf components to make the Remarkable 2, and it has lasted this long, you know, with components that are probably almost 10 years old. So yeah, you have to take these stats on these particular devices with a grain of salt. Now, the machine behind me here, it's a gaming machine. So, I mean, it needs a ton of power. So if I'm going to buy a gaming rig, I'm looking for the best I can afford to put in there because I'm pushing around a lot of pixels, I'm pushing around a lot of polygons. This is just what it is when it comes to gaming these days. You have to have that. My MacBook Pro here, it's my editing machine. When I spared no like expense when it came to getting that thing because I knew that it was going to need the power to do the work that I wanted to do on it. But when it comes to a device like this, eInk displays don't use a lot of power for one. They're intentionally low powered devices, and they don't need a lot of muscle to move around the pigments on the screen. So when you get into faster refresh rates that you have to have a dedicated graphics card or dedicated beefier processor just to handle, like some of the Boox products do, okay, I can understand that too. But this device right here and the Remarkable by extension, and a couple of other devices out there, the SuperNote as well, it's really not designed to do video, to do a lot of motion of any kind, and I include scrolling in that. So these devices are meant for just like static images for the most part. And if you're going to be doing more than static images, at that point you should be looking at something that can handle moving things around on screen a lot better than what an eInk device can. Like I said in other videos though, I look at video on some of my Boox products all the time, just as a quick thing if I'm doing something else and I have the Boox product with me. That's not to say that it can't be done and you shouldn't do it, because I do it. But that's, you know, eInk itself is just not designed for that thing. If that's something you're looking for, you'd be way better off getting something that does that a lot better, like, I don't know, an iPad or something like that. So, but yeah, these devices, the Remarkable, the SuperNote, and now the eNote here, and I'll even include the new Viwood's AI paper tablet in this group as well of devices that don't really need a lot of horsepower to do what they're doing. Could they take advantage of more horsepower? Of course. Anytime you're dealing with computing, you could always take advantage of more horsepower, especially now that these devices are trying to do AI. For this particular device, and like I said, by extension, the Remarkable 2, you don't need a lot of processing power, RAM, or any of that kind of thing. So, but let's move on with the specs here so we can kind of do a compare and contrast spec-wise with those two machines. All right, so talking about the storage space, so 32 gigabytes of storage on the eNote here, and the Remarkable 2 by comparison has 8 gigabytes of storage. That's what, 4 times as much? So, I mean, you get 4 times the storage on this device than you get on the Remarkable 2. So, and again, the Remarkable 2 is still selling like hotcakes. Like, Jeffrey Moss did a video recently where he scoured Amazon and figured out that the Remarkable 2 is outselling what I think is the best e-ink device on the market right now for note taking, the Go 10.3, just as an overall package. It's outselling that device 5-1. So it's clearly still a viable option in 2024 with those poultry stats. Did I say poultry right? Is poultry the word I'm looking for? Hey, what does poultry mean? Oh, I said poultry. Hey, listen, I don't even eat meat. I'm a vegetarian, so I don't care about poultry. I knew poultry was. No, let's move on. Oh, we'll go with minimal, with their minimal baseline stats. So, I mean, this is something that they figured out they didn't need. And I think that's something that Penstar, the maker of the eNote here, has also figured out, that you don't need those beefy stats to make a really good product in this particular space. So the next thing we have here is the screen. It has a lower resolution than what most people expect to have on an e-ink device in 2024, which is around 300 ppi, right? This particular device has a ppi of 227. And that would bring its resolution to 1872 by 1404. Again, it's the same PPI as the Remarkable 2. And again, the Remarkable 2 is still selling. Viable option, 2024. What else we got next here? Processor speed. So we have a 4-core processor, a 4-core 1.8 gigahertz processor on the eNote here. The Remarkable 2 has a dual-core 1.2 gigahertz processor. So again, this is still edging out the Remarkable 2 in processing speed. And again, I'm not beating up on the Remarkable 2 here. Don't get it misconstrued. I'm only making the comparison that for a device that's still selling well in 2024 that has stats that don't even match up to this device we're talking about, but it's still a viable option right now and still selling really well right now. I'm just making a point that stats don't matter, is what I'm really trying to get at here. I'm not trying to say that, that this is a better device than the Remarkable 2. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that comparing the two specs, this device has better specs than the Remarkable 2, a device that's really selling well right now and is still a very viable option in 2024. All right. Next thing we have, and lastly, is the battery. At 6,000 milliamp hours in the eNote here, we got double the amount of battery than the Remarkable 2 at 3,000 milliamp hours. It's meeting the baseline requirements for stats, in my opinion. Would I take anything lower than this for battery? Maybe. Other stats? Probably not. But they met that requirement for me because I know that there are devices, not just the Remarkable 2, but there are devices that are selling with similar or worse stats than what comes in the Penstar eNote here. I just wanted to make that point to everyone to say, I've thought about it. And the thought that I had was, yeah, I know that the stats aren't the best, but I know that there are other devices that are selling pretty well out there with worse stats. So it just wasn't an issue for me when I was talking about it initially. So, all right, let's move on. So next we're going to talk about the Pureview technology on this particular screen. And I just think that the Pureview technology just means this. It's a Carta 1100 or Carta HD if you're old school. It's a Carta 1100 display that just has a unique film on it for writing to make it a paper-like feel. And it also has no capacitive touch layer. So I think that's the Pureview portion of this particular technology. Now, what does that do exactly? How does that benefit you? Well, not having that capacitive layer means there's one less layer that you have to contend with when you're looking at your content that you're writing. There's no light layer for a front light, there's no color layer for color, and now there is not even a capacitive layer for touch. So that's 3 layers that you usually have to deal with when you're dealing with at least the color eInk screen that you don't have to deal with here. And if we're talking about a device like the Remarkable 2 or the Boox Go 10.3, then we're talking one less layer than what they even have. And that makes the display about 31% thinner, which doesn't translate into a thinner device in this particular case, but it does mean that your pen is closer to the display that's showing your content. Now it's time to go grab the Remarkable 2. All right, so we have the Remarkable 2 and the eNote here, and I think the difference I'm about to make is clearly apparent right now. That Pureview technology takes away a layer, which leaves the screen dramatically brighter, in my opinion. Look at the difference here. We got the Remarkable 2. Matter of fact, I'll even switch these things around so that the Remarkable 2 is getting the brighter of the 2 lights here, and we'll switch them around, and we'll give this, the eNote, the handicap in this position, and we'll give the Remarkable 2 the advantage, and you can still see how much brighter this display is. But let's go ahead and put them like this here. Like, we have a serious difference in contrast between these 2 displays here. And that is the advantage you get when you talk about taking away that capacitive layer. You get a screen that is markedly brighter than what you would get on a eInk device screen that had the capacitive layer. Now, does it translate into contrast? Yeah, in my opinion, it does translate to better contrast. I mean, and in all honesty, this is the whitest screen that I've seen in an eInk note-taking device ever. Like, I've never seen one this bright. It's just definitely taking away that capacitive touch layer helps the brightness of this particular screen. If you've been following my channel for a while, then you know that that's one of the qualities of eInk that I look for. Really white background, the whitest that I can. And up until this point, the Remarkable 2 battled the 10.3, the Boox Go 10.3 for a while in my mind. But then after, many back and forths changing my mind about the topic, I did conclude that the Remarkable 2 screen is ever so slightly brighter than the Boox Go 10.3. But there is literally a big difference between these 2 displays right here when it comes to background brightness, in my opinion. So, but that's one of those things that I find to be innovative, because taking away that layer caused the device to have an advantage in that particular area for me. So that's definite innovation on that end. And does it look closer? If I were just to look at this, yeah. The shadow that's created from the bezel onto the screen does look slightly narrower on this particular device, letting you know that even physically you can see that the screen is closer to the display. But yeah, it's just all around a very unique take on this, and I haven't seen that in a note-taking eInk device yet, other than the eNote, which makes it very unique to me in this category. So what about the pop that you get from the contrast difference? To me, the Go 10.3 has the boldest eInk around. It looks the best. The background is not the whitest, but its eInk is so bold and looks so crisp and good that it's the best to me for looks. And so how does this screen compare with the lighter background? Does it have that pop that the Go 10.3 has? Well, yes and no. When properly refreshed, and you'll be refreshing this particular screen here a lot, holding down this middle button here refreshes the screen. It's already mapped to that button. You can't remap it, so it kind of stays that way. One tap takes you to the home screen there. But the point I was trying to make is just that if properly refreshed, then yes, the pop is there. Is it as poppy as the Go 10.3? Absolutely not. Not in my opinion. But that may be on purpose. That may be by design. Because if all your elements pop, then it all looks like the same kind of like importance, right? But if you only have certain elements popping like that, then you bring attention to that particular element and it brings importance to that particular element. And I think that may have been what they were going for here. If not, it's just an added bonus for me. But yeah, so it just looks like they only bolded elements on the screen that were important. Like only thing really stands out on the home screen is the fact that you've got the home screen icon pressed there, letting you know you're on the home screen. Yeah, so same thing with the files. Everything else is super muted and subdued, but files is super bold right here, right? So that's kind of what I mean. Whereas on the Go 10.3, this whole thing would have been popping. Like every element would have been on 10. But yeah, they just went a different route with this, it seems like, which leaves it feeling less poppy. But I'm telling you, when you're in the Notes app and it's just you and your handwriting, it looks just as poppy right there. Especially when you go to the full screen mode and the tools and stuff aren't on the screen and it's just your handwriting, then it looks as good as the 10.3. But in most other cases, to me, it does not. But I think that's because I just got used to every element being on 10. And right here, like I said, in what like you can see here, it's a very subdued kind of thing going on right here. Let's see if we can get down here a little bit more. So yeah, so like right here, it's a very subdued UI in this particular case. So, but very uniform and very cohesive. And all of the apps and all of the screens kind of have that effect going for them. So it makes everything looks like it belongs together. Nothing looks out of place. None of the apps, none of the windows, everything looks like it belongs in this particular ecosystem. Unlike some other products that, you know, you get this fragmentation in the design ethos of particular apps and particular menus. Sometimes tools within the same app. So it's nice to see some continuity here in this particular device, especially with them going a different route with how their UI elements look. And one of the people in my comments said that it's very reminiscent to them of the Viwood's AI paper. Now, I haven't spent a lot of time researching that particular product. I've only seen a couple of reviews on it, but I didn't really pay that much attention to the UI design. But yeah, so if that's something that they're doing too, kudos, because I think that's a really good way to go to kind of differentiate yourself, right? But yeah, to me, the Go 10.3 has got that look that I really like. I'm getting used to this though. It's growing on me. All right, so the next thing about the display is going to be the glassy look of it. It's super glossy. I did a little bit more looking at it and analyzing the particular display and the film they have on here. It's a really glossy looking screen that looks like it has a anti-glare coating on it, maybe, but the reflections on it are really clear. So, I mean, not super clear, but clear enough that you can make out a lot of detail in them. So I don't think that it does a good enough job of doing that. And I think that the on-screen content will look even better if it wasn't so shiny and produced so much glare. Yeah, it's the shiniest screen I've seen. Oh my goodness, where are these floaties coming from? I think it definitely would benefit from a more anti-glare surface. It's almost like the surfaces on the Boox Go tab devices, like the Tab Mini C. And I actually did a comparison between the two, and it looked like the Tab Mini C just handled the glare a lot better, even though it's a glossy surface as well. This is a lot glassier and glossier and does not handle glare as well. So we're gonna see if you can hear this right here. It's almost like an ununiform grit going on the top of the screen. It feels like really good to your palm when you're resting your hand and sliding it when you're writing. It feels like paper, to be honest, with your hand. It doesn't feel like paper. Maybe it feels like pencil and paper. I'm going for a pen and paper feel, but this may feel like pencil and paper. But the grit that they have on here is way grittier than what they have on the Remarkable 2, which I think is the grittiest surface I've ever tested on an eInk note-taking device. It has the most friction on it. But this has way more friction than that, but also slippery at the same time. It's very weird. It's like the difference between a really, 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 really fine sandpaper being the GOAT or the Remarkable 2 and a really coarse sandpaper with spotty grains and ununiform granules. It's like that. That's how this screen would equate to me. All right, the last thing about this particular screen is going to be the fact that I don't feel comfortable using my ceramic nib on this. I don't feel comfortable using it on the Remarkable 2 either, because of how glassy and frictiony the coating is on the Remarkable 2. But I get an even worse feeling. Well, not worse. It's slightly better than the Remarkable 2 with my ceramic nib. But it's definitely not something that I would want to write on. So I've been using the felt this whole time. I tried the palm nibs as well. Too slippery, super slippery. Felt good, but just too much slip for me. So I'm using the nib that I despise almost the most, which is felt, because for this particular device, it just is the only thing that would work for my taste. All right, so now let's talk about the device. The build quality of the device is really good. I just want to correct something that I said before, which is that the back was plastic, and the back is not plastic. The back is actually metal. The frame is plastic. Everything else that I said is plastic is definitely plastic. But the back is not plastic. It's a metal. And not only is it metal, it says it has some kind of fingerprint resistant coating on it. And I mean, it does help with fingerprints, I gotta say. Is it or does it keep fingerprints off? No. Well, I guess it's doing it now. but but it does a pretty good job of mitigating the fingerprints for sure, so I will give it that. Continuing on with the device itself, the only gripe I have with the build quality, which is excellent by the way, no creaking, buttons, no clicking, clicking. It's really well built, no seams exposed. It's just really well put together. The only thing is that this portion right here of the screen, where the grill is at here, this portion has a sharp edge right here. It gets more pronounced at the back end here and gets less pronounced at the top. But right here is it won't cut you, but it's a sharp edge that you can feel with your finger when you're doing stuff. And that I think is caused because the grill that houses the mics and the speakers right here, that grill isn't particularly uniform all the way through. So it kind of drops down as it goes down below. Not a big issue. It doesn't cause any problem with the build of it. And it's very slight, but it's there and I felt like I should mention it. All right, so on to the cover here. Now, I think I might have called this a faux leather before, but this is just a vegan leather here on the particular cover. And another function of the cover is that it does turn the device on and off when you close and open the device. So if I were to close the device like this, it shuts off and it comes on when I open it up with the cover. So I think that's a very cool feature as well. So next we have buttons and the button customizations here. So I've gone into this particular process and this is really cool. So first and foremost, there's a refresh button built in here. And to me, like I said many times on my channel as well, I think every device should have a refresh gesture, because at the time I was talking about devices that didn't have buttons. And I was thinking a refresh gesture baked into the device that you can just quickly do a gesture and it refreshes the screen. I ended up doing that with all of my devices, set up a gesture for every device that I could do it on, just so I didn't have to go into the menus to find refresh. I could do it as much as I wanted to with just one swipe. This is a cool one button press refresh, and you don't have to worry about not doing it correctly. It's a button. As long as it actuates, you're doing it right. So I like that feature. And hitting the button once takes you back one, and holding it down refreshes the screen for you. So that's super awesome. You can also customize any one of these buttons here to be a one quick press refresh as well. So right here we have, if you hit this top button here, it's the set button, and it shows you what your buttons do. And right here, you can go and edit those buttons. And so you have about 40 linkable shortcuts right here that you can customize and affix to any one of these buttons other than the middle button. That button right there can't be changed, so it's always going to be the back button and refresh by default. But the other 8 buttons can be changed into any one of these 39 different linkable shortcuts here, and they are super useful. I have customized all of the screens. I think you can only customize default, which is everything that's not notes and reading will go, and the default settings you put there will control everything else that's, like I said, not notes. In notes, those settings will only control, they'll only be for your notes app. And for reading, for the reader, those options right there you set will only be for the reader. So you get some customization options there for the buttons, and you get to set like templates for your different apps you have here. So I think that's super handy. So one of the downsides I figured out about this particular device is that you can't use any other pen with this device other than the one that comes with it. I've tried all my other pens and you just can't do it. Now, if you were to put another nib in this particular pen, it will work. I've put my ceramic nib in here. I've put Lamy palm nibs in here. I've put Remarkable 2 nibs in here, and they all work. But if you were to try to use another pen with this device, like I use my Supernote pen, you can't use the Remarkable pen on it. So none of these pens work on it. It's just this one right here. So something to keep in mind if you're thinking about this particular device. It becomes very important to have this particular pen if you're going to have it. One of the things you could try to do is get multiple of these, but I've tried that. It might be hard to do. The site is sold out of them, and the nibs, I think, as well. So yeah, people are definitely buying multiple of these pens when they buy these devices because you just can't get them right now. So as far as the pen goes, something I noticed, you have extra felt nibs in here. We saw the extra palm nibs in the package, but what we didn't see were these felt nibs in the barrel of the pen. I thought that was so cool. And now neatly tucked in there in a nice little metal casing. That's awesome. So like I said, little things like that, man, just little stuff, right? How they chose to package the nibs in this side inside of this pen in such a unique way, and in a way that wasn't cheap to do. They could have just made a plastic insert and put that in there, but it's a metal insert that has some weight, you know, and maybe that insert was there to put weight, and they thought, you know, that can serve double duty. Put nibs in there too. So whatever the reasoning, little things like that I'm uncovering about this device all over throughout the UI, the hardware. And I praise the Supernote for having hardware-centric tools like their gesture bar on each side of the device. That's something that, you know, I've praised them for. And this is kind of the same thing, but better. Like those bars are really finicky sometimes, but these buttons, they actuate or they don't. Like you always get the response you want when it's a button, unless the button is broken, of course. But assuming it's not broken, you always get the response you want. So I've never had a problem with these not undoing or redoing. Like I have these buttons set to undo and redo inside the Notes app, and I never had a problem with not undoing or redoing when I hit the button. I have this set to erase and lasso. I've never had the lasso erase not work. It's just comforting to know that you have those tools that you can just bam, 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 especially if you know how they feel where your hand is at over here. It's just a really good way to go about doing it. I really appreciate that. But back to the pen, it's just super thoughtful. It's not as programmable as I thought though. So I thought there were 2 buttons here at the end because I felt them actuating differently when I pushed on them at different parts of it. But this particular pen is not, it doesn't have 2 buttons. It's just 1 button. It just sounded different depending on what part I was pushing. So 1 button. And because of some of the marketing material, they were mentioning features under the pen that were actual tablet features. And because I read it that way, I thought, wow, this pen must have some crazy functionality to it if it's doing all these things. But those were features specific to the actual tablet. The marketing just kind of misplaced where it was put in the material. But so that's why I kind of went into it thinking that there's more to this pen than there was. Not to say that this pen isn't awesome, because it is. Like, it's not just a cylindrical tube like I complained about. It has a button on it, an eraser, there's a clip. It comes with included nibs in the barrel. Um, it's it's exceptional in my mind. I just, like I said, I just thought there was more to it because of how things were worded in the marketing material. But just wanted to say that that wasn't the case. It's what you would expect from a Wacom stylus style pen with a button and an eraser on the back. It just happens to have a clip, which I actually absolutely love, and those nibs in the barrel, very nice touch. Speaking about the button only has two configurations for erasing. You can push it to erase and let it go to go back to the pen, or you can set it up in the settings, which is one of the two settings for the pen we'll talk about. If you go into the settings, you can make it so that it goes to a marker. So you can set it to swipe, or so you can set it to switch between marker and pen. And the last thing about the pen is that the eraser here also has some customization to it, whereas in the Notes app, you can customize the eraser to do what the nib does, or you can have it be a stroke eraser, or you can have it be a pixel erase. So it has some options for it as well. So like I said, not a bad pen, just I was just misled into thinking it did things that it doesn't. That's all. Awesome. The last thing about the pen is that it has a very limited use. Like the device, you can't use this with any other device that I have at my disposal, e-ink or otherwise. It just won't work with anything. So if you damage this or lose it, you're going to have to get another one to use with this device. And because it's so pen-centric, navigating this device and its menus without this would be a struggle. I've tried to do it. You could program these buttons to be left, right, select, agree, and all of these things that you need to navigate. Um, who wants to do that though? So don't lose this pen. Buy multiple if you get the device. It's a super nice pen, but that's something you should consider. It's not a deal breaker for me, but it does give me cause for concern. Thinking about how hard life would be for me if I lost this or it were to get damaged in any way. I would think that if you're making that kind of sacrifice, you're getting advantages somewhere. It's not in the latency department. I can tell you that right now, because the latency is nothing special. So there's got to be some other advantage they're getting for having this be an exclusive pen for its device and making this device exclusive to this pen. I'm going to contact them and find out what those advantages are, because maybe there are worthwhile advantages to be had there. I just don't know what they are yet. All right, so now on to the home screen. You can't configure the home screen in any meaningful way. You can't change the contrast, which, like I said before, I think that might be intentional on how they have it so subdued. I was just used to things popping because of the Go 10.3. But like I said, that may be something that was intentional on their part. So there's no settings to configure here for that. You can't even change the order of the widgets here to where they are on the screen. You can't change how big they are. You can't change whether they're even there or not. Nothing here is customizable in that way. It just kind of is what it is in that sense. Same with these icons you have over here. None of this is customizable. They're just there along with your settings you have down at the bottom. The widgets themselves can't be manipulated. Like I said, you can't resize them or anything like that. And the information that you have in these widgets can't be manipulated. Like I can't scroll through my emails from here. It's not a live widget in that way. Oh yeah, you can customize the apps that show up in this app widget, but that's it. So you also have a global handwriting bar. So I'm going to just go into the search and put that right there. So once you go into the search here, you have the ability to search a general search for everything. You have a ability to search just your notes, just your books, and just your documents, right? So, but what we're going to look at here is the global handwriting, which I think is cool. So just like other devices that have global handwriting, you get a handwriting box here that you can simply write some stuff in. and it will put that there for you. But unlike a lot of other devices, they also give you, like what I remember from the Newton 2100 message pad a long time ago, they also give you the option to do a full handwriting box. And what that means is that you can just write anywhere on the screen. And it'll just translate whatever you write anywhere on the screen over things. Doesn't matter. You can write anywhere on the screen and it'll translate. I love that. And, you know, I'm used to that from the Newton, like I said, and that was just that made me smile when I saw that you could do that. So for people who think that the handwriting box is too small for the global handwriting, you can just turn that to full and you'll have that option available to you. I think that's awesome. So when you do use the handwriting box, you will notice that there aren't any arrows in this particular toolbar right here for full or half handwriting box. I think that's a sorely missing tool. It makes editing, like I can't go take that cursor that's blinking up here. I can't make that go back and just change a letter or put a space somewhere where I missed it. I have to delete the whole thing or go back to the spot or delete back to the spot I want to get to, do what I want to do, and then re-put everything back in. Just two arrows back and forth would be supreme in this particular situation. So yeah, just something I think that should be there. Notifications. Right up here for the notifications, we're just going to go up here real quick. You'll notice that you can barely see the notifications up here. It's almost half gone, like half of the notification is showing and half of it is not. I don't know what that's about. It almost looks like it's not there, and I miss those all the time. So I'm not big for notifications on these devices, but if you're going to show them, you know, show them. All right, so the last thing we're going to go over is going to be the settings. So let's go into the settings. There's not a lot here. It's very reminiscent of the Remarkable 2 in the amount of options you get on this device. You don't get a lot of options. You get some options, a lot more than some in most cases, and we'll see in the next update that I do. But they don't inundate you and bog you down with options and menus. You get the bare minimum here. So I'm only going to touch on a few of these, but how they have it set up is, I thought, pretty unique. So they just give you a list of options here as you go through your top menu right here. But the most notable options, I think, are going to be the screensavers, which they give you a really good collection of screensavers. So let's go ahead and look at that real quick. So if you go into the wallpaper displays, you get screensavers right here. And man, you get a really good list of screensavers. You can go to the last updated list, which are the most recent ones that the company has updated for the device, uploaded for the device. And then you have, you know, a bigger list of things here. So yeah, I'm just wowed by how many options you get for screensavers. Really good options there. Power off images, the same thing. So you get a list of things to pick from there, as well as the calendar banner for the wallpaper. You get, I think you get a list of things to pick from there. Yeah. So you get a pretty good list of options to pick from. And I thought that was super unique because I haven't seen this many options for screensavers or wallpaper options in any device. And they're nice, you know, classy looking screensavers and images. I'm just, like I said, another little thing, right? But something that I really appreciated because I don't have to go get those things from elsewhere. Not that I use them a lot, but like I said, just an appreciated added touch. You can also make a note a screensaver, which we'll talk more about when we get into the notes. And you can also make the calendar a screensaver. So you get a couple of options. You don't get the ever elusive, transparent screensaver, right, that I was hoping would be here. But the fact that you can make any note that you're in a screensaver and kind of keep that there, I think that's super clutch. I'm not sure if you can do that with documents because I would like to do PDFs that way as well, but I will look into that. But just know you have quite a few screensaver options at your disposal, including notes. All right, some other notable features in the settings would be the mirroring mode. screen mirroring is here, and I couldn't get it to work to kind of show you guys, but I'm gonna keep working on that and seeing if I'm doing something wrong or if I just don't know what I'm doing at all. But I'm pretty sure I know how screen mirroring works, and this may just work in a different way than what I'm used to. And another unique feature I thought was, I mean, it's not unique as far as eInk goes, but the quick acceleration option right here. I wasn't able to make that work either, but it sounds like it speeds up the refresh rates for scrolling or video or trying to make things refresh or help with the ghosting a little bit. I don't know. So I'll work on that as well. Lastly, before I go, I just want to talk about the performance. So this particular device doesn't have performance issues, but when I'm in the Notes app and I go and I try to change the template, it will stutter occasionally, enough to where it caused me to write it down, and it kept happening. So I'm not sure what that's all about, but like I said, it wasn't something that was bothersome. It would just stutter for a little bit. One time the device actually crashed altogether on me, but that was an isolated incident, and like I said, it's just something that I did notice. It may be an issue, it may not be an issue. I'll keep an eye on it, and I'll let you know if that's a continued thing, especially if I get more crashes. But that's the only thing that I can say about this device that I didn't like so far. So we have more things to talk about in the Notes and in the reading app and in the setting up your account and all that stuff. But for right now, with these things that I've covered, yeah, only 2 negative things to call out here is phenomenal for a device like this. I think that Penstar is doing a really good job of what they're doing here, and I'm definitely going to continue to dive into this. And I've already found some features that I can't wait to share with you guys, because some of these features are just time savers in helping you organize and find and get to your ideas and your notes. So super excited to share that with you guys, but that'll be the next video. So until then, I hope you enjoyed this update for the Penstar eNote. As always, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss anything. Make sure you hit that like button, and until next time, take care.